Welcome back to Historical Repo, your home for exploring the stories that shaped our world. Today, we're journeying back in time to answer a question that might seem simple but is anything but: who really discovered America? The name that usually comes to mind is Christopher Columbus in 1492. But what if I told you the story is much, much older and far more complex? Archaeological discoveries and ancient sagas paint a fascinating picture of multiple voyages across the vast oceans, long before the three famous Spanish ships ever set sail. We're going to sift through the evidence and uncover the forgotten pioneers who reached the shores of the Americas centuries, or even millennia, before Columbus. Let's start with the most definitive and widely accepted case of pre-Columbian European contact. This story doesn't begin in Spain or Portugal, but in the icy fjords of Scandinavia, with the legendary seafaring people known as the Vikings. For decades, their sagas, epic poems like the Saga of the Greenlanders and the Saga of Eric the Red, told of a distant land to the west, a place they called Vinland. These tales spoke of Leif Erikson, the son of Eric the Red, who had established settlements in Greenland. Around the year 1000, driven by a thirst for exploration and perhaps blown off course, Erikson and his crew supposedly landed in a new world, a land of plentiful timber, flowing rivers, and wild grapes, which earned it the name Vinland, or Wine Land. For a long time, these stories were dismissed by many historians as mere myths, heroic fiction with no basis in reality. The idea of Norse sailors crossing the treacherous North Atlantic in their longships seemed like a fantasy. All of that changed dramatically in the 1960s. Norwegian archaeologists Helge and Stein Ingstad were guided by the sagas and local accounts to a remote, windswept point on the northernmost tip of Newfoundland, Canada. What they unearthed there at a site called Meadows was nothing short of revolutionary. They discovered the remains of a small Norse settlement. The archaeological evidence was unmistakable. There were foundations of several turf-walled buildings, identical in construction to those found in Norse Greenland and Iceland from the same period. Inside and around these structures, they found artifacts that could only have been left by Vikings. There was a bronze, ring-headed pin, a classic piece of Norse clothing fastener. They also uncovered a soapstone spindle whorl, used for spinning wool into thread, a task typically performed by women in Norse society, indicating that this wasn't just a temporary camp for male explorers but a settlement that included families. Perhaps most tellingly, they found evidence of ironworking, including a smithy with a forge and several hundred slag fragments, the byproduct of smelting ore into usable iron. This was a bombshell discovery because the local indigenous populations of the time did not practice this kind of high-temperature metallurgy. The iron was definitively Norse. Radiocarbon dating of the site placed its occupation squarely around the year 1000 AD, perfectly aligning with the timeline described in the Viking sagas. The stories of Leif Erikson in Vinland were no longer just legends, they were confirmed history. Meadows was tangible proof that Europeans had not only reached the Americas but had built a settlement there, nearly 500 years before Columbus. The settlement at Meadows was likely a base camp, a gateway for further exploration into the Gulf of St. Lawrence and a place to repair ships and process resources like lumber, which was scarce in Greenland. However, it was short-lived, probably lasting no more than a decade or two. The sagas speak of conflicts with the native inhabitants, whom the Norse called Skrælings. Faced with a hostile reception and the immense logistical challenges of maintaining a colony so far from home, the Vikings eventually abandoned their American foothold and sailed back to Greenland. Though their presence was brief, they hold the undisputed title of being the first known Europeans to set foot in the Americas. But what if the Atlantic wasn't the only ocean crossed? What if voyagers from the other side of the world also made the journey? Let's turn our attention to the vast Pacific and the master mariners of ancient Polynesia. For centuries, Polynesian navigators performed incredible feats of open ocean travel, settling a vast triangle of remote islands from Hawaii to Easter Island to New Zealand. They used sophisticated knowledge of star patterns, ocean swells, and bird migration routes to guide their double-hulled canoes across thousands of miles of empty sea. Given their incredible skills, the question arises, could they have reached the coast of South America? The evidence for Polynesian contact is more subtle than a Viking settlement, but it is compelling. One of the most intriguing pieces of the puzzle is a humble vegetable, the sweet potato. The sweet potato is native to Central and South America. Yet, archaeological evidence shows it was being cultivated across Polynesia, from the Cook Islands to Hawaii, centuries before European contact in the Pacific. How did it get there? The plant couldn't have floated across the ocean, as its tubers are destroyed by saltwater. the most logical explanation is that humans carried it. Genetic studies of both ancient and modern sweet potato varieties support this. The DNA of Polynesian sweet potatoes most closely matches varieties found in the Andes regions of Ecuador and Peru. Furthermore, the name for the sweet potato in many Polynesian languages is remarkably similar to its name in some Andean languages. For example, in parts of Polynesia, it's called Kamara, while in the Quechua language of the Andes, it's Kumar. This linguistic link, combined with the botanical evidence, strongly suggests direct contact between Polynesian and South American peoples. Did Polynesians sail to South America, acquire the sweet potato, and bring it back? Or did South American mariners, perhaps using balsa-wood rafts, sail west into the Pacific? The debate continues, but evidence from an unexpected source, chickens, tilts the scales toward the Polynesians. In 2007, archaeologists in Chile unearthed chicken bones at a site called El Arenal. These bones predated the arrival of the Spanish, and DNA analysis linked them directly to Polynesian chicken breeds, not European ones. This finding suggests that Polynesian seafarers successfully made the journey to South America, introducing their chickens and likely returning with the valuable sweet potato. This theory paints a picture of Polynesian canoes landing on the shores of Chile or Peru, engaging in trade and cultural exchange with local populations, and then undertaking the monumental return voyage. It's a testament to their unparalleled skills as the world's greatest navigators. Finally, let's explore one of the most contentious and debated theories of pre-Columbian contact, which involves another great maritime power, ancient China. The main proponent of this theory is a retired British submarine commander named Gavin Menzies, who published a book called 1421, The Year China Discovered the World. Menzies' theory centers on the colossal treasure fleets commanded by the eunuch Admiral Zheng He during the Ming Dynasty. Between 1405 and 1433, Zheng He led 7 epic expeditions, commanding massive ships, some allegedly over 400 feet long, that dwarfed Columbus's vessels. The official records state that these fleets traveled through the Indian Ocean, reaching Africa and the Arabian Peninsula. Menzies, however, argues that the records are incomplete and that some of Zheng He's ships went much further. He proposes that a portion of the fleet rounded the southern tip of Africa, crossed the Atlantic, explored the Caribbean, and even landed in North America. Another part of the fleet, he claims, sailed east, crossing the Pacific to reach the west coast of the Americas. The evidence Menzies presents is highly controversial and largely dismissed by mainstream historians. He points to old maps that seem to show parts of the Americas before Columbus, such as the 1424 Pitsagano chart, which depicts what he interprets as Caribbean islands. He also cites supposed archaeological finds, like Chinese-style anchors and stone structures in various parts of the Americas, and even shipwrecks. However, academic experts have heavily scrutinized this evidence. Most historians argue that the maps are open to different interpretations and do not definitively show the Americas. The alleged Chinese artifacts have often been misidentified or cannot be reliably dated to the pre-Columbian era. For instance, stones once claimed to be anchors off the California coast were later identified as natural local rock formations. Furthermore, there is a complete lack of corroborating evidence in the official Chinese historical records. The Ming Dynasty meticulously documented its affairs, and an achievement as monumental as discovering a new continent would almost certainly have been recorded. Its absence is a major hole in the theory. While the idea of Zheng He's magnificent fleet reaching the Americas is romantic and exciting, it remains firmly in the realm of speculation, lacking the solid archaeological backing that supports the Viking presence or the strong botanical and genetic evidence for Polynesian contact. So, while the voyages of Columbus undeniably opened up a permanent and transformative link between the Old and New Worlds, he was by no means the first to arrive. The true story of the discovery of America is not a single event but a long and complex tapestry woven with many threads. The first discoverers were, of course, the ancestors of today's Native Americans, who crossed the Bering Land Bridge from Asia thousands of years earlier, populating 2 entire continents. Centuries before Columbus, hardy Norsemen built homes and worked iron on the coast of Newfoundland. At some point in the medieval period, master Polynesian navigators likely landed in South America, trading chickens for sweet potatoes in a remarkable instance of trans-Pacific exchange. Each of these journeys was a monumental feat of courage, skill, and human curiosity. They challenge our traditional narratives and remind us that the oceans were not barriers but highways for ancient peoples. The history of our world is far more connected and far more interesting than we often imagine. Thanks for joining us on this exploration at Historical Repo. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next video. We love hearing from you, so leave a comment below with your thoughts or ideas for future topics. Until next time, keep digging for the truth.